guys, this is Rich Gaspari. I look forward to seeing you all at this year's Mr. Olympia. I'll be on the pay-per-view with other Hall of Fame bodybuilders. Don't want to miss this 57th Mr. Olympia Championship, October 7th to the 10th in Orlando, Florida. Be there.
This is Ashley Caldwell, three-time Miss Bikini Olympia champion, and I cannot wait for this year's Olympia competition held in Orlando, Florida. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be epic.
Okay, for Digital Muscle, I am back from Columbus, Ohio, and the Arnold Classic weekend with a few thoughts for Mutant Nation, one of the major sponsors at the Arnold Classic this weekend. Of course, we saw Nick Walker come in and win that competition, and he was my odds-on favorite going into the show based on his prior performance at the New York Pro held in Tampa this summer. And there was no shock or amazement with him winning the show. He came in great condition. I believe he was much tighter than he was in Tampa. The question will be, can he hang on to that for the next 2 weeks going into the Olympia? Definitely presents an X factor when you start looking at the top three with Big Ramy, Brandon Curry, and Hadi Choopan. Of course, missing in action was William Bonac at the Arnold Classic, so there's no reason to talk about him because the night belonged to Nick Walker from the moment he hit the first pose. The biggest controversy was Ian Valeri, who got second over Steve Kuclo. Now, this was a contest that was between Steve Kuclo and, of course, Nick Walker going in. Nick Walker distanced himself from Steve Kuclo, but Steve seemed to have a firm grasp from prejudging to finals to the awards on second place. So I was taken aback when I saw Steve Kuclo being regulated to third place. Just as everyone else sitting around me, it was the bigger upset of the night that Ian upset Steve Kuclo. No one I talked to after prejudging or the finals had Ian in second place. So that was the talk of the town. Not that Justin had won. That was a huge feather in his cap to walk off with that $130,000. And I believe he also got the Most Muscular Award, if I'm not mistaken. If he didn't, he should have. I was backstage, so I missed that. But nonetheless, you found a lot more people engaging in conversation about Steve Kuclo getting third place behind Ian than you did about Justin actually winning the show. So controversy was in the house. It was in full effect, and it was talked about as soon as that announcement was made. And of course, that's not to take anything away from Ian because he doesn't control the judging, but he certainly was not at his best. He was not as good as he was in Texas, where we saw Steve Kuclo came in a lot better. Of course, from the back, they were both equally soft. From the front, just Steve had such a much more pleasing genetic structure and size. He was much bigger than Ian, and Ian could not really control the midsection very well throughout the show. He was able to pull off the vacuum at times, but in between poses, it just got a little sloppy. So I was in agreement with the majority of the crowd that Ian should have probably been third place at best, and Steve Kuclo got a raw deal. We saw Justin Rodriguez, and we saw Akeem Williams, rightfully so, and Sergio rounding out the top six. He dropped down from a place a year ago. Sergio was a little bit water retentive, especially from the rear hamstrings, lower back department, and you can see him constantly wiping his body. When you're doing this, it's because sweat's coming out. That means you're holding a lot of water. And if you go back and you watch the video, you'll see Sergio Oliva throughout the prejudging and the finals constantly doing this, which is a huge distraction. But when you got that water coming out, it tells you that you've got a ways to go to be in the kind of condition that you should be in. And of course, Akeem did not hit his peak like he did earlier in the year. And sometimes that's to be expected. Not everybody can peak twice a year. Justin Rodriguez has a very pleasing physique, still needs to get the conditioning down. But overall, I mean, that was the top six from beginning to end. And of course, William Bonac would have been the X factor. Unfortunately, he did not make it in time. And it sets the stage up for the Olympia, which is cool because I think it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with Nick Walker at the Olympia. Can he peak 3 times in a year? And of course, the one I felt sorry for was Hunter Labrada sitting at home. This is a contest that would have been ripe for him. I thought this guy should have been in this show. He's got to meet these guys no matter what. He should have met them in Ohio and tried to do something his father could not achieve, and that is win the Arnold Classic. And I thought he would have stood a very good chance, got a great-looking body. And he's going to have to improve on his conditioning if he's going to beat Nick Walker because Nick gets hard and grainy. He's got that Branch Warren, Jay Cutler type physique. It's going to be interesting to see him standing next to Hai Chupen. That's a matchup I want to see. And again, we want to see Brandon Curry looks massive right now. But looking massive in the gym weeks before a contest does not always translate to looking ripped and hard on an Olympia stage. And Brandon knows exactly what he has to do to achieve that look, because he's done it before and he's beaten all these guys. So Brandon's got to be pretty confident about going into the Olympia, but I think Nick Walker's going to present a nice X factor when compared with Big Ramy, because I think he's more similar to Big Ramy than Brandon Curry is. So he could really throw a monkey wrench into this finish. And again, if we're trying to get genetics and a pleasing aesthetic physique, Hunter Labrada is going to have to hit his peak. He has nailed most of his contests, but he's always had that little film of water, and you see it come out when Steve Weinberger puts him through the poses. If that water is gone and he dries up nicely, Hunter Labrada may be able to make this a very interesting contest. And again, the one that really has to rise to the occasion is going to be William Bonac, because he's the odd man out. Listen, I mean, Hunter's bringing in better lines and better shape. Nick Walker's bringing in the freak factor with condition and muscle. And Brandon Curry, being a former champion, he's going to have to look better than he did a year ago if he's going to keep close to Big Ramy, because now that Big Ramy has gotten a feel for what it's like to be Mr. Olympia, and he's working with Dennis James, he knows how and why he won the show last year. And if he can replicate that, it's going to make it harder on the guys to close the gap, because Big Ramy was ready, and I think he knows now he's going to have to be even more prepared going into this year's Mr. Olympia contest. So there's going to be some interesting questions to be answered in Orlando, October the 7th through the 9th. Bigger audience, bigger stage, bigger production. Who will rise to the occasion? It's going to be very interesting, but not to be outdone. The Classic Physique was a very interesting competition. Terrence Ruffin won that show, and rightfully so, with Logan Franklin nipping at the heels, walked off with the $10,000 Best Poser Award. Let me clarify something. That $10,000 Best Poser Award was presented by Fit Doc Productions. Myself, Chris Cormier, and the Fit Doctor decided that out of all the posing routines that we sat in the front row and watched, that Logan Franklin not only was the most memorable, but the most improved and the most polished, without any mistakes or any flaws. And we liked Terrence. Terrence won the competition. Terrence could have won the Best Poser Award. However, we saw a couple of times where Terrence was off the mark. He didn't hit it right, and the music just wasn't vibing as well as the Logan Franklin, Arnold Schwarzenegger posing music. It seemed to be more memorable, more fluid, and a little bit more improved, where I think Terrence was just a little bit off the mark. We unanimously decided to give that award to Logan Franklin. That was presented by Fit Doc Productions. This was not presented by the IFBB. The IFBB judging was never a part of this award. They didn't have a voice in this. They didn't financially contribute to this award. Therefore, we decided to give this award to the ones that we thought were the most deserving of it. And with Chris Cormier's expertise and my experience on the stage, and the Fit Doc being a classic pro physique competitor, all three of us unanimously decided that Logan Franklin was going to be the rightful recipient of that. The judges of the IFBB Pro League thought that Terrence should have won it. But again, it's a matter of opinion. So if they want to award someone with a monetary prize, then we'll be looking forward to some monetary contributions. In the meantime, don't want anybody to get confused. We've seen the Mr. Olympia contest where we thought this guy should win or that guy should win, and we don't always agree with what the IFBB Pro League judges. And maybe next year we'll get them involved, and maybe we'll get some financial contribution. Maybe we can make this award even bigger with a collaborative effect. But there's people were talking about a sponsor having their fingerprints on giving an award. Well, you find a sponsor that's going to pony up that kind of money, they should at least have an opinion or a voice. His was in sync with mine and the Hall of Famer Chris Cormier. So congratulations, Logan Franklin, on that victory. And Terrence Ruffin, he's put himself in a very nice position to go on and potentially either improve or replicate that performance in Orlando, Florida. We look forward to seeing you guys there. And of course, a big shout out to Jennifer Dory for winning the Arnold Classic. And of course, Missy Trescott for repeating as the Women's Fitness Arnold champion, and it's on to the Olympia to defend the title there. She's just on a tear. Unfortunately, Whitney Jones tested positive for COVID, was not able to compete, which would have been interesting because she's won that show as well. But that matchup will take place again in Orlando, Florida. So this is one you're not going to want to miss. The live stream is going to be in full effect. We've got commentators Lee Haney, Lee Labrada, Rich Gaspari, Flex Wheeler, myself. It's going to be an all-out, war at that Mr. Olympia weekend. We also have Mindy O'Brien and Robin Maher and Linda Murray commentating on the pay-per-view. So you're going to have some experts talking along with our host, Tim Wilkins, while Bob Chick rocks the mic on the stage. So if you haven't heard about it and you don't know anything about it, go to MrOlympia.com. The prize money in the Classic Physique is going up. First place last year was $30,000. This year it's $50,000. So even more money being given away at this year's Mr. Olympia. It's the biggest and the best. We say it every year, but Jake Wood and Dan Solomon, along with Muscle Contest Tamer El Gundy and Tim Gardner, the Olympia is going to be bigger and better with the expo returning. So let's check everything out at MrOlympia.com. We'll see you in Columbus, Ohio. Not Columbus, Ohio. I just came from there. We're going to see you guys in Orlando, Florida in 2 short weeks for Digital Muscle. I got to get this coffee in me. Hang on a second. On behalf of the Mutant Nation and Digital Muscle, I'm Sean Ray.
Everyone, is 4-time Miss Olympia Jay Cutler. Looking forward to seeing everyone at the 57th Mr. Olympia weekend this year in Orlando, Florida. Mark your calendars and be there. See you guys soon.
What's going on, everyone? 212 Olympia champion Sean Carita here. I'll look forward to seeing everyone at the 2021 Mr. Olympia weekend, where I'll be defending my title.
Hey guys, Missy Truscott here. I'm your Miss Fitness Olympia, and I can't wait to see you guys on October 7th through 10th. Come to the Olympia. See you guys there.